All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about biodiversity. You should have some notes that look like this. We are going to look at a video first. Just listen and you'll answer any Ed puzzle questions when it pauses.
Hi, I'm Emerald Robinson, and in this What Is video, we're going to examine the Earth's wide variety of organisms through a concept called biodiversity. Biodiversity, short for biological diversity, simply means that all life is different. The Earth is home to organisms that have different genes, live in different habitats, and function in different ecosystems. Scientists study three main types of biodiversity: species, genetic, and ecosystem. A species is a group of genetically distinct organisms that can have offspring. To date, over 1.7 million species have been named, and new kinds of plants, animals, fungi, and microorganisms are being discovered all of the time. Scientists have predicted that there are between 3 and 30 million species on Earth. Genetic biodiversity means that the genes within a species vary. For example, all dogs belong to the same species, but there are many different breeds that have genes for different traits, such as size, color, and coat type. Ecosystem biodiversity means that ecosystems, communities of living things, are different from one another. For example, some ecosystems are warm and wet like tropical rainforest, and others are cold and dry like Arctic tundras. Biodiversity is not consistent from place to place. Because warm areas are able to support so many different kinds of life, places near the equator tend to have a high amount of biodiversity, while areas near the poles have a much lower biodiversity. Biodiversity is important because all species in an ecosystem have a role to play. When one or more of these species is eliminated, an ecosystem's balance will suffer, and other species are forced to migrate or become extinct. A diverse ecosystem is strong and able to withstand natural disasters, disease, and drought. With an estimated 1/3 of all species in danger of extinction, habitat conservation is more important than ever.
For thousands of
All right, so which do we like better? A or B? Which one looks more diverse to you here? You'd probably say B. Okay. Which one is more diverse? A or B? Probably would say B. All right. Which area is more diverse, A or B? If you look at B, you should see a lot more different organisms. If we see the same type of organism, you don't have a lot of diversity. You want that diversity in your ecosystem. So B is the better choice. All right, A or B? Well, I can see pretty much the same thing over here in A, and I see different types of plants, trees, different things going on in B. So B again. All right, so there are three components of biodiversity, as was stated in the video: diversity of genes. Chihuahuas, beagles, and Rottweilers, they're all dogs, but they're not the same because of their variety in their genes. Diversity of the number of species. For example, monkeys, dragonflies, and meadow beauties are all different species. So you've got different species that are possibly sometimes inhabiting the same area, although these organisms probably are not. All right, variety of ecosystems. So an ecosystem is a specific area that has like a specific type of weather, things of that nature. So the weather that you may see in a tropical rainforest is probably not going to be the same as you see in a grassland. But within certain ecosystems, you want a certain level of biodiversity with the biotic and abiotic organisms that live there. All right, so here's your notes. All right, the term biodiversity is a contraction of the phrase biological diversity. Biodiversity means the richness and variety of life of genes, species, and ecosystems. Remember, you want different organisms in an area. The more you have, the more likely the environment can be stable. Next page, the biodiversity maintains the health of the earth and its people. It provides us with food and medicine and contributes to our economy. It tells us a lot about the health of the biosphere. And then here's your box. The greater the variety of the species, the healthier the biosphere. All right, next one. The more links in a food web, the more stable it is. So you've probably seen some food webs where you may have like 4 organisms in. There's not a whole lot of biodiversity. So if something dies out, then competition increases and that causes problems for that ecosystem. We don't want organisms to die out. We want that variety so things can continue to move forward. So this one has some pretty good variety. Sustainability. Sustainability is the ability to maintain ecological processes over long periods of time. Sustainability of an ecosystem is the ability of that ecosystem to maintain its structure and function over time in the face of external stress. So stress would be like those environmental changes that we were talking about, an environmental change like, a major rainstorm or an ice age, things like that. Could the environment sustain itself if something happened to it? That's what we need to think about. All right, sustainability continued is strongly linked to ecosystem health. The more sustainable an ecosystem is, the healthier it is because it's able to deal with external stress. Okay, so the man here cutting down the trees. Well, we know that a lot of times in the past, forests and stuff have been torn down. What happens to those organisms? They have to move, they have to migrate. For example, around my house, behind my neighborhood, we used to have a field and it was just grass, there was nothing there. They built a tollway within the past couple years, the highway that basically your parents have to pay to travel to be on. They built one of those and then they're slowly building stuff over there. Well, as a result, I see an increase in coyotes walking around my neighborhood. And so that's an issue. Those organisms' environment has been disturbed and they have to find somewhere else to go. They've lost some food resources, so they're having to move out. Okay. So, because of an event that happened to their environment, they're losing that sustainability. Biodiversity and sustainability. The biodiversity of an ecosystem contributes to the sustainability of that ecosystem. Higher or more biodiversity equals more sustainable. The more different types of organisms you have, the more likely your environment is to be able to be sustained. Lower or less biodiversity means less stable. If you have an ecosystem where you just have one type of plant and 5 types of animals, that's not going to be as sustainable as something that has maybe 5 different types of plants and 15 different types of animals. High biodiversity in ecosystem means that there is a great variety of genes and species in that ecosystem. More genes you have, the more you're able to keep reproduction going, and that ecosystem is able to continue to thrive. Biodiversity and sustainability again, a great variety of genes and species means that the ecosystem is better able to carry out natural processes in the face of external stress. Thus, the ecosystem is more sustainable. And guys, that's it. This is stuff from 7th grade. So hopefully some of this is review and be ready for discussion.